Batas Sa Aking Kamay was released in 1987, a critical period for the Philippines. Following the 1986 EDSA revolution, the country was in a state of political transition and cultural flux. While Marcos had been removed, the deep-seated issues of corruption, abuse of power, and judicial inefficiency were still pervasive. The Filipino masses, who had rallied for change, were hungry for an affirmation that justice could truly be swift and absolute. Fernando Poe Jr., FPJ, or the King, was perfectly positioned to provide this affirmation. His films became a cinematic outlet for the populace's desire for a moral reckoning. Batas Sa Aking Kamay is not just a film, it is a socio-political fantasy where the hero achieves the victory that was often denied in the turbulent reality of the time. The incorruptible hero. FPJ's character, Major Alex Razan, represents the ideal civil servant, a man of unwavering loyalty and discipline who is ultimately betrayed by the weak or corrupt nature of the very system he serves. This narrative structure allows the film to critique institutional failure without rejecting the value of patriotism or service. The power of the masa. FPJ's appeal transcended demographics, but his most devoted audience was the masa. The films are crafted to validate their perspective. When the law protects the rich and powerful, the common man, represented by the FPJ hero, is justified in taking back the authority to deliver justice directly. 1.2. The genesis of the title's power. The phrase "Batas Sa Aking Kamay," the law in my hand, is the film's central thematic pillar and a powerful cultural declaration. Shifting authority. The title explicitly states the displacement of authority. The law is not in the Constitution, the courthouse, or the police manual, but is literally embodied in the hand, often holding a weapon, FPJ's symbolic .45 or knife, of the moral individual. This simple phrase carries the weight of a national frustration. The weapon as symbol. The weapon becomes a symbol of moral jurisdiction. It is not used for personal gain, but as a surgical tool to excise corruption. The hero is reluctantly forced into this role, making the act of vigilantism a tragic necessity rather than a celebration of outlaw behavior. This is the sophisticated moral coding that distinguishes FPJ's action films from mere genre exploitation. 2.0. Major Alex Razan, the anatomic of the betrayed hero. 2.1. The character's foundation and fall. Major Alex Razan, FPJ, is introduced as a man of high rank and high moral standing, likely a police or military officer. This initial high status makes his downfall all the more dramatic. The inciting incident. Razan's betrayal is rarely simple. It is usually a large, systemic frame-up orchestrated by powerful criminal syndicates, protected by corrupt high-ranking officials. This sets the stakes. Razan is fighting not street crime, but the rot within the establishment itself. The dishonorable discharge or forced resignation is a cinematic death of his professional self, forcing him to reincarnate as the vigilante. The quest for honor. Razan's primary motivation is not revenge for his pain, but vindication for his honor, karangalan. He must prove his loyalty was pure, his integrity unblemished, and that the crimes were committed by those he was accused of protecting. This focus on honor is deeply rooted in Filipino cultural values and makes his subsequent violent actions ethically justifiable to the audience. 2.2. The supporting cast and their thematic roles. FPJ films are defined by their ensemble, featuring a roster of reliable actors who serve specific thematic functions in the narrative. Charo Santos, the emotional anchor. Charo Santos, Concio, plays the female lead, often representing the vulnerable civilian world that Razan is fighting to protect. Her character is frequently linked to the system, perhaps a journalist, lawyer, or an innocent professional, and her presence provides the emotional gravity. She often starts skeptical of Razan's vigilante methods, but comes to understand the purity of his code, thus sanctioning his extra-legal actions in the eyes of the audience. The Paquito Diaz or Dindo Fernando dynamic, the antagonistic duo. The villains are almost always structured into two types. The corrupt strategist, Dindo Fernando, the elegant, sophisticated, high-ranking official who orchestrates the frame-up. He represents the intellectual, systemic evil. The savage enforcer, Paquito Diaz, the physical, sneering embodiment of crude brutality who executes the dirty work. Razan must first defeat the physical threat, Diaz, before confronting the systemic mastermind, Fernando. 3.0. Production Excellence and Director Ronaldo Reyes. 3.1. The Directorial Philosophy of Ronaldo Reyes, FPJ. Though some sources credit Mike Relon Makiling for Batas Sa Aking Kamay, FPJ often assumed or co-wrote or co-directed his most important films under the alias Ronaldo Reyes. The Reyes style in the late 1980s was one of mature, disciplined action. Mise-en-scène of realism. Reyes favored a visual style rooted in urban realism. The setting often features the stark, unvarnished backdrop of working-class Manila, contrasting the hero's clean moral intent with the grime of the city. This grounds the fantasy of justice in a tangible, recognizable world. The action blueprint. Reyes's choreography avoids the fantastical elements sometimes seen in other Asian action cinema. It is based on efficient, hard-hitting, practical stunts. FPJ's action is characterized by rapid, convincing hand-to-hand combat. Punches and kicks are delivered with impact and conviction. Tactical gun battles. Gunfights are not random, they show the hero's professional training, utilizing cover, rapid reloads, and precision aim. Economy of motion. The hero moves with purpose. Every action is a reflection of his training, not a spectacle of ego. 3.2. The Technical Team and Collaboration. FPJ's success was built on a close-knit group of veteran filmmakers who understood and respected his vision. Cinematography. The cinematographer, often Ver Reyes or a collaborator from the same school of realism, was tasked with providing clear, wide shots that allowed the audience to see the stunts unfold in their entirety. The camera serves the action, not the reverse. Screenwriting, Fred Navarro. Fred Navarro was one of FPJ's most frequent and reliable screenwriters. Navarro was adept at crafting narratives that established high moral stakes, clear hero-villain lines, and provided the necessary dramatic dialogue to explain the hero's burden and justify his shift to vigilantism. 4.0. Earning, rating, and theatrical impact. 4.1. Box office dominance and cultural rating. Batas Sa Aking Kamay was a guaranteed box office smash hit. In the late 1980s, an FPJ film was an event, often competing for the top spot in the Metro Manila Film Festival or being the year's highest-grossing release outside the festival circuit. The commercial guarantee. FPJ's films provided a reliable revenue stream for the entire Philippine film industry. The sheer volume of tickets sold translates to a cultural rating of phenomenal for mass appeal, as the movie delivered the catharsis and moral satisfaction the audience craved. A 5-star genre rating. Within the context of Filipino action films, Batas Sa Aking Kamay is considered a 5-star example of the genre, showcasing the best of FPJ's moral compass and production quality. 4.2. Legacy of the Action King. The film's significance goes beyond immediate commercial success. It contributed to the body of work that eventually led to FPJ's most prestigious recognition. National Artist Foundation.
Every successful FPJ film from this era, with its consistent portrayal of the righteous champion, contributed to the legacy that culminated in his posthumous declaration as the National Artist of the Philippines for Film in 2006. The film is cited as part of the canon that defines his contribution to Philippine culture.
As the narrative of BATAS SA AKIng Kamay progresses toward its climax, Major Alex Razon, FPJ, experiences increasing isolation. Having burned bridges with the legitimate police structure, he relies solely on his own training and a small circle of trusted allies, often played by the veteran character actors of the time. This isolation is critical to the FPJ formula. It heightens the tension, proving that integrity is a powerful yet lonely weapon. The staging of the showdown. The final confrontation typically occurs in a location that signifies the antagonist's wealth and impunity, a heavily guarded compound, a mansion, or a private warehouse used for illicit dealings. This visual contrast between the hero, the solitary, rugged figure, and the opulent fortress of the villains reinforces the class warfare subtext. The strategic attack. Razon's attack is not a wild rampage. It is a highly strategic, military-grade infiltration. He utilizes stealth, diversion, and his superior knowledge of combat tactics to systematically neutralize the peripheral threats before confronting the masterminds. This focus on discipline ensures his actions remain within the boundary of necessary force, adhering to the law that he carries. 5.2. The confrontation, the trial and execution. The climax serves as Razon's final self-sanctioned trial. He first captures or confronts the physical enforcers, example, Paquito Diaz's character, often leading to a prolonged, visceral hand-to-hand combat sequence. Physical versus moral strength. In these physical duels, Razon's victory is predetermined, symbolizing the triumph of his moral strength over the brute force of corruption. The beatdown of the henchman is the audience's physical release of tension. The final dialogue. The ultimate confrontation with the strategic villain, example, Dindo Fernando's character, is dominated by dialogue. Razon does not simply shoot, he delivers an extensive, highly dramatic monologue, listing the villain's crimes, exposing the conspiracy, and articulating the failure of the system. This speech is essential as it functions as the legal indictment that the courts failed to deliver. The inevitable end. The hero's action is the immediate execution of the sentence. The final shot is not an act of murder, but an act of restorative justice. The criminal is eliminated not because Razon is vengeful, but because the villain's continued existence poses an unacceptable threat to society. The law in my hand is rendered complete. 5.3. Post-climactic resolution. Unlike many Hollywood films where the hero reaps financial rewards or rejoins the system, FPJ's heroes often achieve a more nuanced resolution. Vindication is the prize. Razon's name is cleared, and his professional integrity is restored. This vindication, not money or power, is the true prize. The ambiguous future. The film frequently ends with the hero walking away, often refusing an offer to rejoin the corrupted force. This ambiguity serves a crucial purpose. It reinforces the idea that the hero, having seen the systemic rot, can never fully trust the institution again. His vigilance must continue, maintaining the thematic promise of the title. 6.0. Awards, accolades, and formal recognition. 6.1. Glyza Heradora's FAMAS nomination. While BATAS SA AKIng Kamay was a commercial action genre film, its dramatic success was recognized by the most prestigious award-giving body in the Philippines at the time, the Filipino Academy of Movie Arts and Sciences.
Best Child Actress. The film received a significant nomination for Glyza Herradora as Best Child Actress. This detail is crucial because it indicates that the film's script and direction, whether by Reyes or Makiling, were successful not only in delivering high-octane action, but also in crafting emotionally resonant performances and compelling dramatic subplots, which often centered on the hero's family or the plight of an innocent child. 6.2. The context of technical awards. FPJ Productions had a reputation for technical excellence that often translated into nominations, if not wins, in technical categories. Cinematography and editing. The clean editing and realistic cinematography required to execute FPJ's practical action style were often nominated. These nominations signify the film's standing as a technically superior action film compared to the general output of the industry at the time. 6.3. FPJ's Unbreakable Legacy. Bata Sa Aking Kamay is a pillar in the body of work that led to FPJ's supreme recognition. The National Artist of the Philippines, 2006. This posthumous honor is the highest recognition the Philippine government bestows on artists. The selection committee reviewed decades of FPJ's work, and the films of the late 80s, which championed the moral action drama formula, were integral to establishing his profound cultural impact. Bata Sa Aking Kamay is a concrete example of the cinema that championed the masses and defined the very shape of the Filipino action genre. 7.0. Behind the Scenes Part 2 and Technical Dissection. 7.1. Musical Scoring and Atmosphere. The musical score played a critical role in all FPJ films, bridging the gap between action and melodrama. The composer for Bata Sa Aking Kamay, likely a veteran like Pablo Vergara or George Canseco, used a blend of melancholic orchestration to underscore Major Razan's initial betrayal and loneliness, evoking sympathy and drama. Hard-hitting rhythms to accompany the fight and chase sequences, elevating the excitement and intensity. The music was carefully tailored to cue the audience's emotional response, ensuring they never forgot the hero's tragic burden, even during moments of spectacular violence. The role of stunt coordination. The action was executed by FPJ's loyal, highly skilled team of stunt coordinators. The key to the film's action success was minimal wire work. Emphasis was placed on grounded, practical physics. Jumps, falls, and impacts felt real, increasing the audience's investment in the physical risk taken by Razan. The firearm fetish. The film, like its contemporary Batas Mang 45, meticulously showcases the .45 caliber pistol, a revered weapon in Filipino action cinema, synonymous with reliability and stopping power. The film's meticulous attention to weapon handling adds a layer of professionalism and realism to Razan's character. 8.3. The enduring star power of Dina Bonaviva. The casting of Dina Bonaviva as the lead female was a strategic decision. Bonaviva was a major star known for both dramatic and commercial roles, ensuring the film appealed to a broad audience, including those who preferred drama over pure action. Her presence guaranteed that the film's emotional stakes, the scenes of doubt, love, and support for Razan, were handled with cinematic depth, preventing the movie from devolving into a simple, mindless action picture. 8.0. The Legacy of the Moral Action Film. 8.1. The Blueprint for Success. Batas Sa Aking Kamay remains a definitive reference for the moral action film in the Philippines. It codified the essential narrative beats that defined the genre for decades. Betrayal by institution, the fall. Vigilante justice, the law in the hand. Physical confrontation, the test of skill. Moral vindication,
the restoration of honor. 8.2. The continuous cultural conversation. The film's themes are continually revisited in Filipino media, from television series to contemporary films. The audience's deep emotional connection to the figure of Major Alex Razon, the honest man forced to become an outlaw, demonstrates a persistent cultural anxiety about the fairness and effectiveness of the nation's justice system. By giving the people a cinematic hero who successfully navigates the ethical gray area to achieve absolute moral victory, Batas Sa Aking Kamay provided a vital piece of social commentary disguised as explosive action entertainment. It is this powerful dual identity that cements its place and FPJ's in the pantheon of Philippine cinema.